best that I can. So to start the event, I give you the Honorable Mayor of Gainesville, Harvey Ward, to accept the marker on behalf of the city.
Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
You consider it still morning, right?
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled that, first of all, that we have a beautiful day to do this with, and that the storms have passed. And I'm sorry that a lot of folks came to Gainesville for something that didn't happen, but I'm so appreciative that Heartwood made something happen anyway. So a big hand for Dave and Hosh and everybody at Heartwood. It means so much to our community, and those of you who live here know how much it means to our community to continue to have this connection to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and to the Petty family. And those of you who are here from somewhere else, I can't really explain to you how much it means to know that a kid who went to Howard Bishop Middle School and grew up here in Gainesville and was a part of just regular Gainesville, not somebody who came here to play football and was here 2 or 3 years and left, but somebody who's really part of this community, went on to be such a force in the arts for the whole world. And I get a little emotional about it sometimes. I mean, I grew up listening to this music. I'll get a little personal with you. Some of you have heard this story before, but I was in 7th grade at Howard Bishop Middle School when Damn the Torpedoes came out, and I heard Don't Do Me Like That on the radio, and I'm not kidding, it changed my life, because I heard Boomer on WGGG tell us that not only was Tom Petty from Gainesville, but that he went to Howard Bishop and Gainesville High, and it dawned on me that if this super cool guy with this really cool guitar on the front of this album that sounded so good could have gone to Howard Bishop and turned out the way he did, then I'd probably be okay too. And it turned out all right. So I don't want to take too much of your time, but I cannot tell you how important it is to me personally and to several members of our city commission, Commissioner Eastman, Commissioner Booker here. It matters to our community that you all, both from here and from other places, care about our favorite son and care about his legacy and where we're going with all this. There's so much more that we are going to do in the name of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers that I'm committed to, that I hope you'll all be back for. And I hope to see you all down at Heartwood in a few weeks when we do the big festival. So I don't want to keep you here any longer. I will turn this back over to Jeff Goldstein, who tells me that he's not real comfortable with public speaking. So give Jeff all the love you can here. Help him out.
Hi, as Harvey just said, my name's Jeff Goldstein, and I'm President and Chair of the Gainesville Music History Foundation. We gather here today to commemorate Tom Petty's life here in Gainesville, Florida. We are proud to be the sponsor of the Tom Petty Rock Musicians Historic Marker dedicated today here in Tom Petty Park. My experiences with Tom Petty began in 1970 when I moved to Gainesville. It was a distinct privilege when me and my partners discovered Tom and his band Mudcrutch playing in bars, high school gymnasiums, and fraternity houses. But unfortunately, he was not given the opportunity to play his own music. Knowing there was greatness there just waiting to be unleashed, we invited him to play for us on the Florida campus, the University of Florida campus. The first thing he asked us was, can I play my own music? We were only too happy to tell him that our policy was that bands that played for us play mostly their own music or all their own music. You could tell by the smile on his face that made him really happy, and he went on to do just that. The Rose community began presenting shows on the University of Florida campus with regional and local bands playing original music, giving many Gainesville bands their first concert setting, a step up from playing cover songs in bars and clubs. Mudcrutch became our house band and played for us well over 40 times. We were privileged to bring Tom Petty before a wider audience with substantial exposure of his emerging musical greatness. This historic marker will further honor and preserve Tom Petty's Gainesville legacy, May his music live on forever. We at the Gainesville Music History Foundation wish to thank Adria Petty and the Petty family, and the Petty Legacy LLC, Adam Holt and Red Light Management, Jeremy Hiker in the state of Florida, the City of Gainesville, and the Gainesville Music History Foundation members that donated to make this happen. Thanks for support and honoring our favorite son, Tommy Petty, with this historic marker. Thank you. So now I'm going to turn the mic over to our preeminent Gainesville historian, Melanie Barr.
Wow, this is such a great turnout. Look at this. Just imagine if Hartwood had not canceled the weekend, we'd have so many more people, and this is already standing room only. So I'm going to tell you about why I decided to write a state historic marker for Tom Petty. First of all, I always thought I was his #1 fan. Who else thinks they're the #1 fan, right? We all think that. Okay.
Now I'm going to interject here. I want everybody to know that this marker was Melanie's idea.
Yeah, you'll figure that out at the end of the speech. And I know many of you took a plane here expecting to go to Hartwood, and I'm really grateful that Dave Malash and Dan Spice did put something on yesterday for the out-of-towners and for us locals. So raise your hand if you flew on a plane to get here. Anybody? We do have some people that came here on a plane to go to
We scrapped the plane and drove from Connecticut.
Okay, you drove from Connecticut.
Wow. Flight was canceled, we were coming.
Wow. Well, so raise your hand if you drove over 50 miles. So that includes Tallahassee. Look at that. Look how many people we have. So this is one reason we're having the marker this weekend, because you are all out-of-town visitors, and we're grateful you're here, and we want you to have something to do this weekend. And this has been 5 years in the making. Okay, so I want to tell you, and you all know, that the Tom Petty weekend is scheduled for November 8th and 9th, but the bad news is hurricane season doesn't end until November 30th. So that could happen again. Okay, some background on me. I started visiting Gainesville in 1970, just like Jeff, although we didn't know each other. And I didn't move here permanently until 1973. And back in those days, I think I saw Mudcrutch, but I don't remember exactly. Not that I'm saying anything, but there was bands, and I really wasn't always paying attention. I did go to all the Halloween balls. Who remembers the Halloween balls? Yeah, I went to all of them, and I know that I saw RGF. So Tom and the members of Mudcrutch left for California first in the spring of '74, and then permanently a few months later. So my window of opportunity to see them as a local band lasted less than a year. But I became aware that Tom was now becoming a nationally famous band, and my interest in him grew dramatically after 1977. What happened then was my first husband's brother, his only sibling, was diagnosed with cancer, and we were pretty shocked at that. So I was crushed, and I went to the American Cancer Society to find out what could be done or the prognosis. And I was worried his 1-year-old daughter would not be able to see him to see her grow up. So the person I went to talk to said, "Don't worry, they can live longer than you think. My son-in-law's mother has the exact same illness as your brother-in-law, and she's already lived 5 years. So don't be that concerned." And she said, "Maybe you've heard of my son-in-law. He's a rising young rock star. His name is Tom Petty." And I said, "Yes, I have heard of him." And from then on, I was a complete fan, and I had a lifelong friendship with Mrs. Benyo. We emailed back and forth, and I knew when she moved to California to help raise her grandchildren. So now I began reading everything I could on Tom, buying all the albums, attending the concerts, and it was an exciting day when he returned to Gainesville for the first time as a rock star in 1981. And here's little me making an amateur hour scrapbook, showing pictures of people waiting in line to buy the tickets to the concert. This is from the Alligator. Then there was an article on Earl, his father, and little me drove out to the house across the street over there.
Watch out, Melanie.
And what?
Your clipping's falling off
Oh,
the
yeah.
album.
Okay, and so Earl signed it, and he said, "To Melanie, thank you for enjoying, or happy you're enjoying Tom's music. Then another thing that I did was, this was back before the internet, 1981, 43 years ago, so you couldn't Google people. Well, there was a rival to the Alligator called the Collegiate Dispatch. So I knew that Tom was having a press conference at the Hilton. So I said I was going to be representing the Collegiate Dispatch, and I made myself a little badge, and I got my big Canon single lens reflex camera. Remember how big those cameras were? Film photos, and I had my strap on, and I walked in and I signed my name, and I thought later, maybe that wasn't a good idea, because I'm not authorized by the Collegiate Dispatch to be their representative. But there I was in the Hilton, 10, 15 feet away from Tom and the band, and I got all these great film photos, really fantastic, and one of them, Tom's looking right at me, and I see the mayor, Cortland Collier. I've got plenty of pictures of him giving Tom the key to the city. So these are just a super treasure, and I relish them, and I guess someday we'll have a rock history museum, and maybe we'll put this in the archives. And after that, in 2006, Mayor Peggy Hanrahan was going to give them another key to the city. So this time I couldn't crash the press conference. So I said, look, I have this 25-year-old scrapbook. I want the band to see it. Well, she did. She showed it to them. And the next day, Mary Clauser, who was the administrator manager of the band, called me from California, and she said the band loved the scrapbook, and they wanted to keep it and make copies of it. And I said, well, that's too bad, because I've already got it back from the mayor's office. And I thought, well, if she flew me out to California, then I would happily let them look at it again and make copies of it. Well, of course, nobody suggested that, but they did get to see it. They did look at it. So I continued to be a rabid Tom Petty fan and saw them every time they played Gainesville, Jacksonville, Tampa. And I did get to see them in Orlando, because my first husband called me and he said, I just answered some questions on the radio with your Tom Petty album, and I won tickets to the 8th row in Orlando. So cool. And my sister drove down here from Tallahassee, and she swears every time Tom looked at us, he was looking at her and smiling, because we were so close. So here we are today in this park, and Keith Harbin got the park named Tom Petty Park in 2018. But I thought people are going to walk through and say, who's Tom Petty in 20 years? Oh, he's a musician, but what about it? So I thought, I had been writing markers since 1989. My first marker, if you're in Gainesville and you want to go down University Avenue, was to Josiah Walls, the first black congressman, because I wanted people to know him. Well, I want people to know Tom Petty. So I thought the only way they're going to know his great accomplishments is someone puts up a state marker. So I did this as a volunteer, and I started working with the state marker coordinator, Michael Hart, in 2019. So I know this has been a 5-year effort to get the marker up today. And that's one reason we didn't cancel it, because we wanted to get it done. And we do have our state marker coordinator today with us, drove here from Tallahassee on his day off, Jeremy, he's right there. And we are going to actually have this. And I want to say the significance of the park is that Tom played here as a little boy. He walked through here on his way to watch bands at the Thelma Bolton Recreation Center, the American Legion, and he also went to play guitar with Tom Ledden, who lives over there. This was a very important park to him, and I know Tom Petty fans that are coming from around the world to go on the Tom Petty Trail, we're going to come here. So the marker needs to be here. It may get moved to 16th Avenue after the renovation is done, but it's here now. So I want to mention that I want to thank Jane Benyo, Mrs. Benyo, for engaging with me and being my friend. And in fact, when I did send out 5 years ago the information to the family, the only one who wanted us to change the text was the daughter, Tom's first wife, and we happily made those changes. But then later, the Tom Petty estate decided they wanted more changes. So we couldn't put up the marker until today, and now everything is fine with the Tom Petty estate. They wanted this marker, they've got their words in there, we've got our words, and this is a glorious day, beautiful weather, and now more generations to come will learn about Tom Petty thanks to my marker. Thank you for being here today.
So now, would you please welcome our special surprise guest, one of the original members of Mudcrutch, Mr. Danny Roberts.
Well, good afternoon. It's so good to see you all. I kind of have to say it. But anyway, I'm going to kind of improvise. I guess, you know, I had this other band that we used to play a lot in Gainesville. And we played the University Auditorium a lot. And we had one gig that Mudcrutch was opening for us. And Mudcrutch at that point was a trio. And we're up in the dressing room getting ready. And Tom comes up. I'd never met him before. And he comes up, and he wanted to make sure that they got to play a long set, the usual set, you know. And they thought that we were going to cut them off to like 20 minutes or something. We're like, man, play as long as you want, you know. And they did, and they were great. So that was the meeting. I got a finger smashed in a car door after that. And so I had to quit playing for about 4 months. And the first gig I got was one that Rose Community, they're like a booking organization, booked the Halloween Ball. And Jeff's partner called me, Bruce Neron. He called me and said, what are you doing? Do you want to play a gig? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. And so we booked it, and I played it like solo on 3 or 4 songs. And then my sister and another guy came and sang harmony and helped out. And it was cool, but it was, you know, first gig as a guitar player, really. And so when I got done, I'm like taking my stuff off the back of the stage, you know, and it's really weird because I saw there was a stairwell over here to the back of the stage, and my old girlfriend was there. She's on like one side of the stage, and then I hear, "Hey man, you want to join a rock band?" And it's Tom and Mike and Randall, and my girlfriend was looking really good. And they asked the question. I'm like, yeah, I'll stay around and listen to you because they were playing next after me. And I look over for my girlfriend and she's gone. You know, I didn't see her. I saw her about, it's been like 16 years ago. So I didn't see her that whole time. And so anyway, I joined the band and we played, I think the Rathskeller was the first gig. And you know, we played all the gigs in town. We played, there was a bar called the Keg. We played there a bunch.
Man, that was big time.
Yeah.
Dancing on the table.
And we played the auditorium. And so then we go like, man, we got to cut a demo tape, which we did. Oh, first, excuse me. We did one demo tape. Oh man, I need something to drink. But we cut one demo tape and took it around Florida and booked a bunch of gigs everywhere that would book us. And so then when we got back, we were really tight, and we were playing a lot of original, like mostly original. And so we did another demo. Hold on a minute. This is ridiculous. I'm really drunk. There we go.
Vanna's got you covered here.
So we did another demo. Thank you, sir. Oh yeah, we did it. Here we go. Oh, so good. We did another demo at Benmont's parents' house, and it turned out really good. And so then we sit around over at Tom and Jane's apartment. I think it was Jane's apartment. Tom hung out there a lot. So we're hanging around, you know, we did the demo and it's really good. We go, okay, what's the next step? And we said, well, Tom Ledden's brother, Bernie, said, you know, do a demo, take it to LA. And so we started looking around and, you know, who's going to drive? who's got a car that will drive? And nobody does. And Randall had one, but it wouldn't have been very comfortable, I think. It was pretty small. I think it was a Maverick. But I had a VW bus that was a camper, a homemade camper, but it was real nice, fairly new. And so I go, I'll do it. And so me and Tom and our roadie, Keith, who we called Duke, we took off. I forget the date. This is the only thing I really have forgotten, the exact date. So if anybody knows. So we took off and drove from Gainesville to LA, straight through. And no, I should take that back. It wasn't straight through. But it was a ball, And I think we made it 3.5 days. We broke down once. Duke got the part to fix the, I think it was some with an oil filter or something. No, it wasn't a water filter. Anyway, we stopped one time, and then we hit the trail again. We never. Oh, this was during the peak of the oil crisis. So we said, well, it's time to get gas, man. And we'd pull in, and there was like a line forever. And then by the time we got up there was no gas. So that was an adventure. But, we pressed on. And by the time we got to LA, we were like fried. And somebody had arranged for us to be able to stay with this one friend of a friend of a friend that was in Manhattan Beach, I believe. And we stayed there the first night. We were just so burnt. But, and the next morning we go, I don't think she's really liking this. So we found other places to stay, and I stayed in my bus. And so the first night, we decided, what are we going to do, man? And we go, let's go to the Whiskey A Go-Go. And we did. Went to the Whiskey, and the first booth we could get was right next to a booth occupied by some guys that we kind of knew who they were. But we sat there and listened, and we're like, man, I know who that is. I know who that is. And they keep talking, and gradually I got up and looked over the divider wall, and it's Ringo Starr and Harry Nilsson and a guitar player named Jesse Ed Davis, who was a big session player, played with Taj Mahal and stuff. And we're like, man, we're not in Gainesville anymore. And gradually, I got a place that was right down the street, across the street, and about a block down the road. And so I would see Ringo and Harry Nilsson all the time in one of those VW, the thing, they call it. It looked like a military vehicle. Well, it was a military vehicle in the old days during World War II. So, anyway, we had a big time, and we went back. We went to about 15 different record companies. We used to go to the phone booth at this one restaurant. They had a phone booth in the back outside, and okay, how do we do this? And we grabbed the yellow pages and look up record companies, and we did. And we started calling, and we would swap who would talk, Okay, you call this time, and you call this time, and I'll call the next time. And so we got appointments with the first couple calls, Man, this is going really good. Let's call Clive Davis, who was like the head honcho at CBS and all that, Columbia. And so we called them, and we got some appointments, We went, and we would know there were a couple spots on our demo tape that we maybe had a little kind of glitch. And so we all knew where to cough. When it got to that, we're like, it covered up. So that was kind of cool, cute. It was real cute. And there was one company I remember going to, Playboy Records. Oh Lord. I actually did one of the things of grabbing a newspaper, and I tore out a little segment where I could look. I would turn one way and read. And, and that's terrible, isn't it? But, you know, we got some more appointments and we got some action on a couple of them. And so we went back to Gainesville. We drove again, obviously. And we decided, you know, we're sitting there going, well, this one guy named Raul Abeta, who was at a label, I think it was Chrysalis, and he goes, well, I can get you guys some gigs at some clubs. You send me a demo, and I'll book you some club gigs. And we did a demo for him. It was funny. If you can imagine Tom singing Smoking in the Boys' Room. Ben Mont did, I think, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. And I did a Bobby Bland tune, If Loving You Is Wrong. And so we're all set to go sign with this one guy, Raul Abeta, and we're packing up, and the phone rings. I mean, we were literally at the tail end of packing up, and the phone rings, and it's Denny Cordell from Shelter Records, and he's asking if what we're doing, and we're like, hey man, we're packing up, we're driving to LA right now, and he's like, well, you ought to stop in Tulsa. You know, Leon Russell lives there, and he's got a great studio, and we could go in the studio and record. And so Tulsa was like, you know, we were going to be going like this, or Gainesville to LA, but Tulsa was like kind of like that and then that across. So more gas. But we went, and we stopped, and we did 48 hours of recording at their studio, with the church studio. And at the end, Denny takes us across the street to this Greasy Spoon restaurant and to get coffee, because we've been going like 48 hours, no sleep. And it was my birthday. I think I turned 21. And so Denny's like, well, guys, I really love you. I want to sign you. And we're like, wow, Denny Cordell, he produced like Whiter Shade of Pale and a bunch of other stuff, you know, Leon Russell and Joe Cocker, people like that. So we're like, this guy's it. And plus he was cool, really cool, English guy. Actually, when we were recording, the 2 days recording, by the time we got done, we're speaking with British accents, and he's speaking with a Southern accent. It was really quite cool. Pardon moi. So, and he gave us money. He fronted us a few $1,000 with nothing. We didn't have to sign anything or make promises or whatever. And we say, what's this for? He goes, go to LA, get some places to live, and get an attorney. And we're like, attorney? What's that for? You know, you'll find out. So we did, and that was an adventure. We had the most notorious attorney in Hollywood, because he defended the tape pirates, guys that stole music from people, all the way to the Supreme Court, and he won. And he did it simply to show how archaic the laws were concerning songwriting. And so when we walked in to talk to some people, and they saw who we had, they're like, oh, God, scared. But anyway, we did the deal and all that stuff, and I forget the rest of it. Stay there. So anyway, I got to say once again, Jeff Goldstein, he was a member of Rose Community with Bruce Neron, and they played a major role in helping bands get going and book gigs around Gainesville at the university and other places. And so he really helped us out, you know, because he did book a lot of gigs. And that he did what they did that with a lot of other people, and it helped, you know, turned Gainesville into a pretty cool place for musicians and rock and rollers. I mean, really, a lot of people kind of did their first real important intro. You know, when you're playing for a college town, you get a bunch of real smart people. And so I got to say, thanks a lot, Jeff. That was a marvelous thing you did. Yeah, give it up. So I've kind of forgotten if I'm supposed to say anything else specifically.
Danny, a lot of that music came out of the
Oh
big patch.
yeah. Okay, let me see. So we were getting ready. This is like we're getting ready to leave in April, like early, like April 2nd, I believe. So before that, Jeff and Bruce organized a gig for us at where was it? Was that
Westside.
yeah, that's right, Westside Park. And it was to raise money for our gas fund because, man, we didn't have a lot of money. I mean, we had like a few $100, and that's for 4 cars and a big truck. And I mean, really. So that really helped out. And I must say, once again, thanks. So really, there's a lot more, but I won't bore you. The guys turned into a major force in rock and roll. And about it, you know. I'll remember some more while somebody else is speaking. Okay? But anyway, this is lovely place, lovely sign, tribute, whatever you call it. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, it's every musician's dream to have a park. I mean, a park. And it's a really nice park at that. Can you come here and play ball? Is there a hoop or?
Yeah. Oh, there's everything. We
All right.
play everything out there. The Leaden and us, and I made some really good plays out there.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, I'll say thanks a lot for your warm welcome and all that good stuff, and thanks for the water, and check you later.
All right.
Danny's awful tall. Another thing about that concert that we did, it was Tom threw together a band for that show because they were out of money and they really wanted to go out west, and they came to us and they said, "Can you help us?" So we went to the city and we got Westside Park to do the show in, and Tom put together a band with Mudcrutch and a band called Road Turkey, which members from them, right, became Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And the name of the band was Tommy Homage and the Fantabulous Tornadoes. And it was one of the greatest concerts of all time. It was just wonderful. There were hundreds of people out there, and we really enjoyed doing it. And we gave them all the money from that show. And that's how those guys got out west. So we felt really good about doing that. At this point, let's see. And now to speak, in my humble opinion, Gainesville's music chairman of the board, Mike Boulware.
Dang, got to be funny after Dan Bob. That's a tough job. Couple of things to talk about. My perspective, everybody knows how Tom's story ended. You know, his career, his taking stands and his not backing down, all that kind of stuff. What you don't know about is where we're sitting right now is the park where everybody used to come and play Mighty Might football and baseball, and we would sneak over here and smoke weed because our parents couldn't catch us. There were 2 deputies in town at that point, Shelley Downs and my soon-to-be stepdad, Roy Perkins. And so that was it. They couldn't be, they couldn't even surround the park with 2 of them. We just ran the other way. But anyhow, the point of this whole thing is to tell you kind of what the culture was. Starting maybe 64, 65, I would have been 13, Tom would have been 15. Well, back in Howard Bishop Junior High, which is what they called it then, when they put people in your rows in your homeroom, they did it alphabetically. So there was a young woman who was taller than all the other boys in the class sat in front of me because Benyo comes right before Boulware in the alphabet. And I still have scars on my shins from where Jane kicked me for teasing her about being too tall. But I would see this kid show up, he was starting to grow his hair out a little bit, and see her between classes and after school. And I knew him from playing baseball and Mighty Mike football and all that over here. And, you know, as has been stated too, there's a very important kind of a crossroads connection between the Ledden family and their great house right there. Just past that was Ray Valla's house, who wrote a mandolin book for Mel Bay. On the corner down there, turn the corner, there was a tobacco barn that I lived in starting in 1970 also. So
I lived over there too.
yep, Scott was right around here too. But we'd go to the Moose Club and see the Sundowners play. Yeah, and they, you know, a little known fact about that, they never plugged Tom's microphone in because Richie was the singer. And but Robert Crawford, great guitar player, Dennis Lee, great drummer. That was the first band that I heard Tom in. And then I started hanging out over at what I'll later call the Mudcrutch house, was really the Epic's house. It was a duplex out behind a little bar there on 13th Street that the one that Spike supposedly came to. Yeah, Spike doesn't exist, y'all. I'm sorry. But he never let the truth get in the way of a good story, is what I always say. But anyhow, we would go to that house over there, and I was just barely, I would go to Young Life meetings trying to meet girls. That's how desperate I was, you know. And I'd go there, and they would have gathered up all the strippers from Traders or Dubs, and they were having body painting parties on the black Naugahyde walls. And you think I'm making that up. Truth is always stranger than fiction. She knows, yeah.
And you know that Moose Lodge right now is a school.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but the Moose Club is where I first saw them play. So then, as Danny said, they started playing every gig you could get in town. I was at the gig at Westside Park long about the time that they had gotten Danny's van to go to Los Angeles. I decided I was going to go surfing because I didn't like Richard Nixon very much. And so I said, I'm moving to Costa Rica because that seemed like the cool thing to do. So I went off to Costa Rica and stayed a good long time. A friend bought a chocolate farm. He's still there, retired with his Panamanian wife. Beautiful place. And spent the next 15, 20 years surfing and not coming back to Gainesville except for holidays. And a great quick story I want to tell. I was sitting in Dixie Cream one morning with my friend having breakfast, and Stanley was with us. And I had no idea they had achieved such monumental success at this point. I said, "So Stanley, you still playing? You do anything these days?" He said, "Yeah, we got a little band going on." I said, "What's it called?" He says, "The Heartbreakers." And I went, "Ooh." Yeah, open mouth and remove foot. But, you know, what I'd like to let everybody know is Tom was a normal kid. He was a little shy, a little funny, just like everybody else. Right after he passed, I talked real briefly to Bruce just to convey my sorrow at the loss. And every time Bruce spoke a phrase, I go, "Man, that's Northeast Gainesville right there. That's that Southern accent we've all heard about." But, you know, my folks played country music back then. And you might as well have worn a big C on your forehead, you know, the scarlet letter to, you know, there was no mixing of the kids that had the garage bands and me, because my folks played country. But what I was going to tell everyone is that I was country way before that was cool. Tom was cool way before he was country. And so on that note, I'll leave you guys to contemplate this beautiful day in this beautiful park and think about some of that music and how that always affected you. And be sure to thank Buster Lippum for being the guy that helped everybody have jobs and equipment. And also thanks to Rose Community for all those shows. I'll see y'all.
Boy, there's really tall people in this room. So now I'm honored to present Bruce Petty, Tommy's brother, to accept the marker on behalf of the Petty family.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you saw Danny's notes. This is my notes. That'll give you an idea how long I'm going to talk and how long Danny talked. But one thing I was going to say, the mayor brought up a point that made me think of Howard Bishop. I went to Howard Bishop high school. It was a junior high school when I went there, and I brokered a deal for Mudcrutch to play our 9th grade prom, which, if you can imagine that band in 1972, they were really good. And I think they paid them $300, and so they played at the rec center down. Yeah, and that's where our prom was. So the band comes out, and they open up first song, High School Confidential, with Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
You know, that's the best song. But what's the best high school song you could play, or junior high school song you could play? The problem was these kids were all ninth grade, so we were all like 14 years old. They'd never seen a live band. So everybody just stood there scared to death. And I looked at my date and I said, we're going to dance. And she's like, no, I don't dance. And I said, no, you don't understand. That's my brother playing, and we have to dance because nobody's going to. So needless to say, we went out and started dancing. Within minutes, it was the biggest dance you'd ever seen. Everybody converged on the floor, and they played a great night. We had a beautiful prom. So just a little story that I thought about when he was talking about Harvey Bishop. I wanted to thank Mayor Ward. I actually thought when I was driving over here today, I said that, I told my wife, I said, I think it's just going to be me and you and Jeff and the mayor. I didn't realize because Tom Petty weekend had been canceled, and I figured, well, there's not going to be a lot of people here. So it's nice that everybody showed up. I'm glad you did. I hope we don't let you down. But I did want to thank Mayor Ward and the City of Gainesville for making this happen. Jeff especially. I know Jeff's worked on this thing for a number of years to keep it alive and keep it going. They first approached me about the idea years ago. I think Melanie was the first one. We've gone through drafts where they've sent and we've commented and changed things, and we wanted to try to get this thing as accurate as possible. But I know Melanie and these guys, they're not getting paid for doing this. They're doing this because they loved him and his music, and it's such a great thing. And I just want to say thank you. I miss my brother every day. I shouldn't have brought that up.
You're not alone. We love you. He's with us.
Don't worry, he's with us.
I wish we were together, you know, sitting in Malibu, listening to music. You know, he would always play me whatever he was working on or whatever he just recorded. Our grandkids are running around. It was a beautiful life.
Bruce, I'm going to change so you don't go. Tell him the story about the 13 ghosts. That'll get you in a different mood. It's a great story.
Thanks for saving me. I'm just loving my brother. I can't help you. I'm sorry about that. He was so special to me.
13 ghosts.
When I was like in I think I was like 6 or 7 years old, he convinced my mom. He was going to the Florida Theater. We were going to see this movie called 13 Ghosts, which was a horror movie. But he convinced my mom and me that it was good for me to go and it was something that I could watch. And it was a movie that we wore 3D glasses. And so we had to put on 3D glasses. And as soon as the ghost came out with the 3D glasses, I jumped up, screamed, and ran all the way to the concession stand with him right behind me. And, but he, being the brother that he was, he stayed up there with me until he called my mom. She had to come pick me up. He missed half the movie waiting for me to go home. But anyway, that was just a little story that my wife had to throw in there. It got my tears away. I'm sorry about that. I just get really emotional. But when I start thinking about him sometimes. When we were, you know, in California, we would, you know, he and I would always sit and he would play me whatever he was working on, and, you know, whatever he just recorded, and we'd sit down and go over and listen to it over and over, and he wanted input and, you know, to hear what I thought, and he knew that I was honest with him, and I would tell him exactly what I thought. Not that he ever did anything bad. I always thought everything he did was brilliant, but it was a good experience, and I love those times where it was just the two of us. Sometimes it would be really late at night. Sometimes we'd bring women in with my wife and his Dana. We'd get the women in, and then we would all sit and listen to it together. But we had our times where we would do it by ourselves, and it was just really special. And then our kids were always there. Our kids were grown, but they were all hanging out, and we had our grandkids there, and it was he used to tell me it was his favorite time of year that when we spent that time together. So I know it meant as much to him as it did me. So as much as I miss him, and I miss him every day, the encouraging thing is that his music lives on, and his music continues to touch people, and I see it everywhere I go. I mean, when I was here in Gainesville last weekend at the Florida game. They had a Tom Petty Day. I don't know if y'all knew that or whatever, but they had a Tom Petty Day at the Swamp at the stadium, and we were invited to go, and to hear 90,000 people singing "I Won't Back Down" the way they sing it, I get emotional at that too. I'm sorry, I'm a crybaby. But just hearing all those people, it really brings it back to me. And you know, everywhere I turn, I hear music. We were traveling not too long ago and stopped somewhere to get gas, and I get out to pump the gas, and they've got American Girl playing on the speakers outside. And I'm in an elevator and I hear it, or if I'm in a bar, or if we hear live music, the band decides they're going to play Tom Petty tonight, and everywhere I go, I hear the music. It's so encouraging because it does continue to touch people, and I think people, you know, learn about Tom Petty and they get into the music, and it just continues on. And it's such a great legacy that he can leave us all this amazing music that will carry on forever. And I can't ask for anything better than that. But I feel like I'm letting you guys down by not being able to tell you something cool. I'll tell you one funny story, and then we'll do the marker thing. One of the first times I went out to California, I flew out, and I was flying. My wife had to work. She couldn't leave, and Tommy got on the phone, and and I call him Tommy. That was what I always called him. He got on the phone and he said, "I really want you to come." And I said, "Well, Beth can't come." And he said, "Well, I know, but come on, you got to come on anyway." Anyway, I flew out. So I jumped on the plane from Gainesville, flew to L.A. He met me in the airport, got me to the house in Encino where he lived at the time. And it was about 10 o'clock that night, he got a phone call, and he got up, and we were sitting in the living room. He comes back, and he looks at me and goes, "You ever been to New York?" And I said, "No, I haven't been to New York." And he said, "That was Stevie calling. She's playing Radio City tomorrow. She wants us to come. She wants me to play with her, and I'm going to do 2 songs, Stop Dragging My Heart Around and Inside Her." Yeah, that was the other one. So I was like, "Yeah, when are we going?" He said, "In like 2 hours." Now I had just flown from here to LA. Yeah, and been through the time change and all that. So anyway, we flew a red eye. We were going to fly a red eye from LA to New York, and so he's going to play, and he had a guitar that he wanted to take, and so he said, we're flying commercial. This is before he had his own, he would charter his own plane. So we're flying commercial, and it was me and him and Jane. And he said, you carry the guitar on, and if they say anything to you, just set it, just try to stick it under your seat, or if there's not anybody in the seat next to you, set it in there. And I was like, sure, I'll carry the guitar. So anyway, I carry the guitar on the plane, and we walk on the plane, and immediately the stewardess walks up and says, you can't carry that on, you have to check it. Well, my brother knew this. So he proceeds to start, he had this big grin on his face, and he's just watching me get, the stewardess is giving me all this grief. And I said, well, how do I check it? And she goes, well, it's too late now. You just have to, I'll take the guitar and put it somewhere. And so she takes off with the guitar, and he just laughs about it. He thinks it's funny. So we go to New York, and he plays the show, and that was the first time I met Stevie Nicks, who I love her to death. She's a sweet person. Amazing show, and he plays. The next morning we're flying back to LA, and so we get on the plane. We're going to the airport, and he said, hey brother, you're going to carry the guitar again. I was like, they told me I can't bring that. He said, don't worry about it, just carry the guitar, play dumb. He said they won't say anything. So I pick up the guitar, we walk onto the plane. Fortunately, he was doing really well, so we're flying first class. So we walk in, same flight crew, same stewardess, and she walks up to me and says, I see you brought your friend again. She said, let me have it. So needless to say, she warned me. She said, you can't, if you do this again, we're going to have to charge you or whatever. And my brother, he's sitting there laughing. So. But true story, that's a typical thing, and that's kind of how our life was. I mean, we had a lot of fun, and he was a big cut up, and he would prank me every now and then if he could. But other than that, the one thing I do want to say before we unveil the marker, I wanted to say thank you on behalf of his family, Adria, daughters Adria and Anna Kim, his wife Dana, granddaughter Everly. I wish they were all here, but they all say thank you, and thank you so much for doing this.